setting, a full gospel setting, gifts of the Spirit, Holy Spirit. Honestly, that became a routine after a while. I knew exactly when that lady was going to jump up and start speaking in tongues. I knew exactly who was going to interpret it. I knew exactly what we was going to do after it.
Absolutely.
It's all a routine. So whether it's on a piece of paper or not, it's still religious, because to do something religiously just means to do something in the fairly same way at about the same time with about the same people.
Right.
So I think here's what I'll say. I think that it became a bad word because other things became a buzzword. When kingdom became a buzzword, religion became a bad word.
Oh, no, we done brought up the kingdom.
Are we ready?
You done brought up the kingdom.
I'm going there.
Brought up the kingdom of God. Suffer
kingdom
violence,
minded.
but the violence take it by force.
Kingdom. I don't do church anymore. Unpack it, Jeff. I don't do church anymore. I do kingdom.
It is the same thing. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to unpack it. It's the same thing. You still going to church. You still, like you said, you still gonna sing a song.
No, it's not. It's not the same thing because we don't wear hats. It's not the same thing because we wear
t-shirts. We wear and truth be told, most of these, I mean, you're a Second Baptist.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
House of Hope.
Traditional Baptist church. Are you going to stand up in the pulpit on Sunday morning and if somebody walks in a pair of jeans and t-shirts and tell them no, they've got to go home?
Never seen it. Never seen it. Now, we can go by stares and they stared at me. After a while, I start to worry if that's just perception or if you had that chip on your shoulder when you walked in the door, if you were told that people judge you and are going to look at you, so you're looking for it.
See, and that's one of the problems I have with kingdom people, because they will do stuff on purpose
to generate a religious response.
Right. If you come to church on Sunday morning with your army suit on, your fatigues on, your combat boots, and a bandana on your head,
and rat-a-tat up the aisle,
right in
the middle of worship, I'm gonna tell you to stand up and sit down somewhere.
We looking at you like, we looking at you like you're crazy. I'm sorry, we looking at you because it's okay to just put on a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, and some tennis shoes, but you ain't gotta do all that you do.
But the kingdom, I don't think we always grasp that what religion is man's best attempt at any particular juncture in history to reflect the kingdom.
Absolutely.
It's just their way of organizing and administering themselves so that they can reflect the kingdom. And by the way, I think what we do is sometimes when we're between generations and a few people are a little bit ahead of the curve, they look back on people who haven't made the curve yet.
Absolutely.
And say, well, you're not kingdom, you're stuck in church, you're stuck in religion, you're stuck in routine. And really, sooner or later, that new thing you're doing will be old too.
Mm-hmm.
That new thing you're doing. And what was working made sense to the culture, and the culture did shift, and some people don't always catch up for various reasons. Right. And it does not mean they don't love God, they're not sensitive to the Spirit. If a day is like 1,000 years to God, then I think he can handle the fact that some church is still kind of stuck in the 90s.
Absolutely.
I think God can handle that.
Absolutely.
And we act like he can.
Absolutely.
We act like he's limited to our culture or norms, our way of looking at life. And so kingdom now becomes a stylistic term more than it is a biblical term.
But I think we need, though, the kingdom needs those churches that are stuck in the 90s just as well.
The kingdom wouldn't have a church if it wasn't for the churches that are stuck in the 90s.
Come on. Yeah, it needs some. Some people are just, that's what they're not addicted, but they're used to. That's their thing. That's their If you like Popeyes and I like KFC, go to Popeyes.
We both eating chicken.
We both eating chicken.
Now, here's something we've alluded to before in personal conversation that you brought up, that sometimes people who talk about the kingdom and use it as a word, as a term, as a buzzword, they're actually narrowing it down to their particular experience or perspective, and it almost robs the kingdom of its potency, as if the kingdom is not broad and big enough to include grandma and grandchild at the same time, as if it doesn't include Mount Olive Baptist Church and Waves of Glory Kingdom Ministries and Dirt Bucket Ministries, in a ghetto somewhere. It can have all of those. It could be white, it could be black, it could be old, it can be young. Who are you to tell that 100-year-old believer that's been walking with the Lord for 75 years he's not about the kingdom and he's been preaching Jesus to the best of his ability, to the terminology he understands, to the songs he knows how to sing? Do you really want grandmama trying to sing Toby Mac for real?
Come on. Because
we've seen...
She can't. She can't. basically out. They're posting it online before they're doing it.
Oh, and that's the crazy thing, because now as a minister, in our Christian world, in the Black community, we're talking about mental illness a lot more, but it's hilarious how we're talking about mental illness a lot more in the Black community, and we want to and need to attribute more of our struggles to mental illness. But when white boy walks in Walmart,
right,
and shoots 30 people, or walks in Dayton and does all this, and they say he's mentally ill or whatever, I don't want to hear it.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons I don't want to hear it is because, number one, he was not mentally ill when he wrote this manifesto with perfect grammar.
Right.
And he's like college level. And if you have that much in capacity to go out and buy the weapon would do the damage, it would happen. Skirt or do whatever you need to do to steal the weapon. Sometimes they've taken them out of their parents' home,
right,
or whatever it might be. They had all that intelligence when it was for that, but now they're mentally ill. Now, maybe they crossed over a line by committing the act, that by the time they get to examining them, I'd be a pretty screwed up person too if I'd finally brought myself to doing something so heinous.
Absolutely.
But maybe some people can make themselves appear to be mentally ill, but we're so ready to pull that card, and we'll say everything but it's just plain hatred, terrorism. And I'll say this, and I said it to you before we went live with the video, that, the churches are going to make statements, people are going to put out, and there was a church, I read a statement about everything, praying for the families, all of the things that we all dearly feel, the pain, the sorrow, we're sick of it, and then how to deal with the trauma, all of that stuff. I even saw something about how to talk to your children. But in all those statements, mostly from white evangelical churches, there was nothing said about white nationalism, racism, and the hatred that spurred it. And I've seen people attribute it to everything. And like you said, the shooters are basically broadcasting, this is why I'm doing it.
This is exactly
Don't even
why.
bother saying we don't know why they're doing it. We might not know what brings a human being to that place, but they have told us why. They've told us why.
Here's my question. If we in the community, if we all over have attributed the gun violence in the African American community.
There it is.
We have attributed it
right
to we have attributed it to rap music.
Mm-hmm.
We have attributed it to these gangster movies. We have attributed it to all of that, and this
broken homes, no daddy.
So if we can attribute it that or the gun violence that happens locally to or to rap music and all that stuff, can we not attribute this type of mass shootings, and especially when they're saying exactly where it came from?
They're saying exactly where it came from.
Can we not attribute it
to what they're saying it is?
To what they're saying it, because people are getting upset like, no, it's not, but they're saying it what it is.
Oh yeah, they're like,
and we have to be able to attribute it to what it is.
Look at Dylan Roof. I mean, he was like, I'm in court. I don't care. I did it. That's why I did it. Blah, blah, blah. And they tried to spin that, it's attack against the church. I'm like, no, that's attack on black people. He drove past a lot of white churches to get to that black church to shoot them people.
Absolutely.
Let's just be honest about it. But let's converse it. Let's flip that. So if we can attribute the causes of those shootings to exactly what they're saying and the exact environments they put themselves in, conversely, as a pastor in the African American community, I don't know a people more mentally broken and more mentally deranged and confused than young black men who are raised in chaos and confusion and with messages that they're no one and cannot be anything. I can't, or they've raised up with siblings and cousins and whoever who have been shot in front of them, or they've been going to funerals since they were 3 and 4 years old. If you're going to attribute mental illness to shootings, attribute it to those brothers shooting each other 40 sometimes in Chicago over the weekend. That's mental illness.
Absolutely.
We need to attribute almost community brokenness, because that's what I see every Sunday. And you know how we see it, Jeff? Excuse my headphones. We see it because we are ministering to the cycle of brokenness in our churches every week
Absolutely.
in paths and places where nobody ever sees. And often it's cyclical, right?
Absolutely.
It's that brother who wants to get right. Next thing you know, he's on the street. It's that sister who wants to get out of that relationship. Next thing you know, she's right back in it. And we see the destruction coming up the road, but we know that it's deeper than just, oh, he's a thug or she's a whatever. I don't want to say any, can I say bad words? We're going to get too in trouble for that.
No, don't say no bad words.
But you know, she's this, she's that, they say, go ahead, just cuss, pastor. I ain't a cussing preacher, y'all don't push me. But we see it, and we see the real struggle they're going through. They mean it when they're in front of us. They mean it when they're coming to the altar. They mean it for those seasons in life when they are going through. And then something happens that totally breaks them down from the inside out. And that's why people, they roll their eyes at us. They don't believe what we're saying when we say, I know that kid, he has a good heart. Absolutely. I know that kid, he was really trying. And they will totally roll their eyes. Sure he was, you know, and then they'll pull out the rap sheet and they'll pull out the prior mistakes and the crimes and all that. But we see the real anguish. And if anybody deserves, it is the 400th year anniversary since Africans were brought to this continent, right? If anybody deserves to say that illness has driven them to violence, it would be minority and historically oppressed people.
Absolutely.
And then
said she got married to a white man, and she said, you know, her cousins were the ministers, and the ministers came in, and and they began to talk to her. Listen, you guys are special. You guys are different. Things are going to be different in your house, and you guys have to learn to deal with each other. And she said, well, what's going to happen? And if we get in an argument, am I going to come home and, you know, one of the bathrooms going to say white people bathroom?
No. The whites only sing?
But I mean,
that'd be funny.
Thing is,
does that happen, Mike?
No, man, that don't happen.
Okay, are you sure?
I'm positive.
You don't have like a blacks only garage or something like
man.
that?
No. It's all love in my household.
Okay.
To be honest, though, I mean, they're like a seasoning salt. You know, you gotta put the seasoning, you know, hot pepper and paprika. And,
now, come on now. My wife's Italian now.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
She can cook.
That's almost black.
That's exactly. I mean, some lasagna get up in there. And
this is religiously incorrect, so we're gonna stay on the incorrect side right now. So here's where we don't want to take up all the time. Here we go. How can we now? We talked about the stepfather. We know mixed race is still out there. I have an adopted little sister. We've known some people with foster families and all. Right. How can the church? We pose this question online, and I'm going to read some of the comments. We pose this question online. How can the church and pastors better minister to the modern family? Now, I'll tell you what my sweet teacher, Miss Melanie, said on my page. She said one simple phrase. She said, just basic acceptance goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Just basic baseline acceptance. And on that, Eddie, a gentleman by the name of Eddie, commented on the page and said, I would say by not judging. And when we mentioned, you know, step families, mixed race couples, and second marriages, that's what we meant, second marriages, adoptive and foster family, he said they're all families. So all three situations are families, regardless of race, step parent, or whatever. And that got a lot of love. And I think that's the baseline. Number one is, as we mentioned on the first half, removing the stigma and not looking for the you're special, you know, moment or, ooh, that's exotic. You know, I mean, just these comments we make. And we have to temper our own because we all get sucked. And sometimes I feel like as African Americans especially, and white people probably get on their side too, you feel so just attacked and tense by the world you're in. You still need some stuff to cling to. So you see one of these things going on, and it's something easy to kind of snap at.
But what was the first you said?
Acceptance can go a long way.
Basic acceptance.
Acceptance can go a long way.
Now, because we are talking about how do we as ministers, pastors, accept that. So you pastor, I pastor predominantly black churches.
Predominantly black churches.
So, and I'm pretty. I think you have at least one mixed couple come here.
Couple. Got a couple.
Got a couple. Okay. I mean, I believe that they feel very accepted. You know, but it's still, it sticks out.
It sticks out, but I think the acceptance part is literally like ignoring it.
Absolutely. There it is.
I mean, and you know what? Again, this goes back to the beginning. it's common, and it's no. I mean, if this was 1955, we'd be like, what? Stop the organ. Organ be like, now whether you're attending a white evangelical church and even traditional, predominantly black churches, it's just normal to see some mixture in your churches when it comes to race. It is normal to see multiple, if not majority, step families in your congregation. It is absolutely normal to see second marriages, and you don't even find it out till later on when you get to know people. Oh yeah, we got married later in life. This is his son. That's my, that kind of stuff. So thankfully it is a norm. So now just ignoring it, not making something out of it. And maybe that's us, because sometimes we can be a little sloppy and a little clumsy because you're trying to make some endearing, comment, and it ends up coming off as offensive or whatever. And have you ever had an experience like that? People kind of made more out of your relationship, Big Mike, than you wished?
Yeah. I mean, you do have some people that just try too hard.
Yeah, that's it.
Dude,
that's it.
We get it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
We know what we look like.
Right. It's all good.
While you in a conversation, let me ask you one other question. And you guys have been married for quite a while. How long you married?
Oh man, you would ask me that. What, 14 years?
14.
15
Okay,
years?
right here, man. 14.
Right.
You about there too?
15, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet.
So my question is, because you have kids, mixed kids.
Mm-hmm.
How is there a challenge with mixed kids? Because and let's just be, because most people, and I'm talking about myself, every mixed kid I see just looks like a little light skinned child. They just look a little light skinned, little real pretty light skinned child.
The one drop rule, man. It's the one drop rule. That's a lot of drop right there. So
you know what? It's crazy because early on they did have an identity crisis. I don't want to say crisis, but identity problem. The black girls thought they acted white.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The white girls thought they acted black.
Mm-hmm.
So they were in the middle where they didn't know which side they were on. You know what I mean? They weren't. I think they were accepted, but because of things that happen and bullies, how kids are, they just say stuff, man. And I think it got to them more than they actually should.
Right.
But I did talk to them, of course. Like look, the world's gonna see you as black.
Absolutely.
I don't care how straight your hair is, how pretty your eyes are, how light your skin is. They're gonna look at you as black. So get used to it.
And I think black people are just as bad, and I don't know why we got to get back on tracks in a minute, but as acting like the world is being lost to mixed people. We act like ain't nobody black no more. You know what I mean? Like everybody's mixed. But that's just become, again, ignoring it. And thankfully we can. Thankfully this world in most cases different. Now if you go in other places or you run into some ignorance, you're going to encounter it. As churches, we need to be the ones who truly have that, and as Mike said, not trying too hard. I have never had to make a comment about anybody and anybody's race, in service. Look at how white people come to our church. Isn't that great? I can often talk about how more don't come, but I've never had to comment on who comes.
So you never made fun of them for clapping on 1 and 3?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. No, I do not. I don't. I could, because I'm be real. There's a whole lot of us that's off too.
Yeah, you're right.
A whole lot of us be off too. I'm like, just stop the shout. We're too flippant about entering into things, period.
Absolutely.
Now, would the church stand for a slower flow of people if they were more stable people? Or do we help to perpetuate this problem by taking everybody at their first word without any time of proving, without any further questioning?
Well, one of the things,
because even these new membership classes are pretty white. I mean, they're not
but
come in here and sit down and listen.
Truth be told, I appreciate them. I appreciate you for doing, because at least there are many churches who, like you said, as soon as you join, you have the full rights of every. And we'll get into this in our next segment. You have the full rights
and
privileges of every member as much as somebody who's been here 80 years.
Right.
And so now they've joined on Sunday, you ain't gonna see them 2 years down the road, but they still want the full rights of that person who been there 80 years. Because this is what you
connection, or just the connection, you know, just the idea that I'm connected. But you know, less and less people, you know, honestly, I am some people's pastor, but Second Baptist is not their church.
Talk about that.
That's real. You know, they follow me religiously on Facebook. They like what they see me doing, what they see that God has led me to do and say, whether it's ministry related, community minded, you know, the messages impact them. God has drawn them in some frame or fashion. I definitely attribute that to the Lord and the Holy Spirit, if that is a genuine pull. You know, then there are going to be people who are going to be more flippant. And I just said this the other week, and you can call it controversial if you want to. I won't put myself in this category, but some of these people that they're watching, because it's a watching, and just like anything else you watch, you're only getting the best view of them. You're getting the stage view, the Hollywood view. Some people, and I'll just say this honestly, especially females, are more in love with the man. They got a crush on the dude. They just think he represents the ideal. He speaks smoother than anybody else. How you think preachers always had these problems with women? Speaks smoother than anybody else, dressed to the nines, looks like he's living the life. Everything he says works for him, and everything's supposed to work for them. And they are not committed to the cause of Christ.
Absolutely.
They're not evangelizing the gospel. Now, there's a difference between how many people can I get to watch this video with me, and how many people have I led to Christ because I taught them the gospel, because I received it from that person. So I'm saying there are people who follow me and want nothing to do with being a part of my church.
Oh, definitely.
There are people. Let's go over the railroad tracks. I don't want to make another issue out of it, but they appreciate the clean, articulate young black man who's making a difference, but they might be Caucasian and ain't about to come over to the Black Baptist Church. There are people who like to hear the 20-minute clips or the 2-minute clips I'm putting up on Facebook, might like to follow my lives, but they're not about to sit through a whole hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and we've shortened it. You can't shorten it enough for people that just don't want to be there. I mean, that's just a whole nother thing. So we live within that context locally and internationally, where there are people who will never see the connection, and I think they miss out on the blessing. They miss out on the growth, the development. Because why? I don't want to be up in that church because, you know, I know all the mean things about the church, and, you know, they hurt my feelings. Some people might even be impacted by their family, friends, grandparents, parents who served in the church and got hurt, and I don't want to end up like them. Absolutely. I don't want to spend my whole life up under some man or woman. So...
And it happens subsequently on both sides. On both sides it happens. You know, I mean, for me, you know, especially having a smaller church, a smaller congregation, they'll love me. They'll love listening to my messages. But, you know, I'm not going to that old Baptist. You know, I'm not going to listen to them sing Down at the Cross.
Right. I love Down at the Cross.
I
wish everybody loved it as much as I do. Put it this way, if everybody loved it as much as I do, they would have a totally different idea about it, because we'd be giving it the same energy we give, you know, Fred Hammond in Israel and whatnot. But anyway, I digress.
So it's really sad that, you know, some people just won't come, and it's for certain reasons. There's a lot of different reasons, but I guess the question is, how do we get them to get past those innuendos? How do we get them to say, you know what? How do we get them to say, I am going to be committed to this ministry? If it isn't the, you know, the new members classes, I mean, you know, and then a lot of people will say, you know, well, the pastor just isn't friendly. Well, this pastor has, you know, 300 members to concern himself with. He can't just be friendly to you.
Oh, it's very, I mean, trust me, you know, I mean, our church is a little large, one of the largest, you know, black congregations in the area. And that doesn't mean it's huge, but it's difficult to know everybody and get to know everybody and be as personable as you'd like to be. You're going to miss out on people. Honestly, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Absolutely.
And so if you get called more or text more or informed more about certain people, or they're coming in your face and a little bit more friendly, you're probably going to hear or see them.
But coincidentally, and that's that.
These people who watch on TV don't know you at all. They're not calling you at all.
But coincidentally, you know, what you have in the church, maybe with 300 members, or with me having a church with 60 or 70 members, it's still very difficult, because now I know all of them. So I'm expected.
You're expected.
I'm expected to be at every baseball game, every, you know, all of it. And, you know, every hospital visit, and I still got a job. I still got a wife. I still got a son. I can't be at everything.
Right.
And most of it is because you don't have your own relationship with Jesus.
Right.
So you want to have a relationship with the pastor.
That is true.